Okay, just imagine this for a second. What if you could control your computer or maybe even a robotic arm just by thinking about it? I know, it sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi movie, right? Well, it's not. It's happening right now. Today, we're going to dive deep into the wild world of brain-computer interfaces, or BCI. And we're going to do it by breaking down the incredible research of Professor Park Hyoungbin from Seoul National University of Education. We'll look at how this mind-blowing tech actually works and tackle some of the huge ethical questions it brings up.
And if you want to understand the power of this, you just have to hear from Nolan Arbol. Nolan is quadriplegic, and in 2024, he became the very first patient to get a BCI implant from Neuralink. And, well, it completely changed his life. Suddenly, he could surf the web, play video games, connect with the world in a way he couldn't before. And his quote? Wow, he said it's like getting an aimbot in a game. It's so precise, it's almost not fair. That right there tells you everything. This isn't just another gadget. It is a profound game changer.
So yeah, Nolan's story really drives it home, doesn't it? This isn't some distant theoretical future we're talking about. This is here, it's now. And that's exactly why we have to get our heads around it. We need to understand how our brains can literally talk to machines. And maybe even more importantly, we have to start grappling with the massive questions this raises, about what it even means to be human.
All right, let's start with the basics. What exactly is a brain-computer interface?
So at its heart, a BCI is basically a translator. Think about it. Normally, to use a computer, you have to go through a middleman, right? Your hands, your voice. BCI cuts out the middleman entirely. It creates a direct highway between the electrical signals in your brain and an external device. It's literally teaching a computer to speak the language of your brain.
And how does it actually do that? Well, even though the science is insanely complex, you can boil it down to 3 main steps. First up, you have signal acquisition. That's just a fancy way of saying the system listens to and records your brain signals. Step 2 is signal processing. This is where the magic happens. Super smart algorithms, a lot of them powered by AI, sift through all that noise and figure out your intention. And finally, step 3, device control. The system takes that intention and turns it into a command, like move the cursor left or flex the robotic hand.
Now, there are 2 main ways to listen in on those brain signals. Think of it like trying to listen to a conversation in the next room. The first way is invasive. This is what Nolan Arbogast had. It involves surgery to place tiny electrodes right on the brain. It's risky for sure, but the signal you get is crystal clear. You're basically putting a microphone right in the room. The other way is non-invasive. This is where you wear something like an EEG cap with sensors on the outside of your head. It's way safer, way cheaper, but the signal is muffled. It's like pressing your ear against the wall. You can get the gist, but you lose a ton of detail. So it's this constant trade-off, right? Risk for precision.
Okay, so this is where things get really interesting, and it's a huge focus of Professor Park's work. We have this incredible technology, but what is it for? Is it for therapy, or for enhancement, for healing, or for upgrading? On the one hand, the hope it offers for therapy it's just breathtaking. Just think about what this means. We're talking about giving people with paralysis the ability to control a robotic arm or their own wheelchair again. We're talking about restoring a voice to someone with ALS who can't speak. It could even help people literally retrain their brains after a stroke or help us spot diseases like Alzheimer's years earlier. The potential to heal is just massive.
But, and this is a huge but, every single piece of that same technology could also be used for enhancement. Imagine a BCI that supercharges your concentration while you study, or one that gives you a new sense, like being able to feel data from the internet. You could use it to become an unbeatable gamer, a super athlete, or even an enhanced soldier. We'd be looking at the dawn of, well, augmented humanity. And that is the core dilemma, isn't it? Where do you draw the line? Because there is no clear, bright line here. The exact same tech that lets someone move their own arm for the first time in years is the same tech that could give someone an unfair advantage. Figuring out where that line is, that might be one of the biggest challenges we face.
So how do we even begin to tackle this? Well, a lot of researchers and ethicists are talking about a pretty radical new idea. They're calling it neurorights. So what on earth are neurorights? You can think of them as an upgrade to our basic human rights, specifically for this new age of brain tech. They're meant to protect what you could call the final frontier of privacy, your own mind. We're talking about things like mental privacy, the right for your thoughts to actually stay your thoughts, and cognitive liberty, which is basically the right to be in control of your own mind. And this idea of neuro rights immediately brings up some really tough fundamental questions. For instance, who owns your brain data? Seriously, if a company's BCI is reading your brain signals, does that company own your thoughts? Can they sell that data to advertisers? This isn't like your search history. This is the raw data of how you think, how you feel. And it gets weirder. What happens to free will? I mean, if a BCI is so good that it can predict what you're about to do, maybe even before you're fully conscious of the decision yourself, and then it acts for you, did you really choose to do that? Where does your free will stop and the algorithm's predictions start?
And finally, maybe the biggest question of all, what does this do to our sense of self? If your body and mind are deeply integrated with machines, are you still you? Is there a point where you stop being just human? The line between person and machine starts to get really, really blurry.
Okay, so these are massive, heavy questions with no easy answers. So, where do we possibly start? Well, Professor Park's research points to a surprising place. Not a high-tech lab, not a government building, but a classroom. The argument from Professor Park is pretty powerful. We have to start preparing the next generation for this world, and we have to start early. He actually proposes bringing these ethical conversations right into elementary schools. Not with boring lectures, but with really engaging stuff. Like having kids write stories about a world with BCI, or role play as a user, a developer, or even a lawmaker. Getting them to work on projects where they have to design the rules for this future. The whole point is to give kids the tools to think critically about this stuff long before it becomes just normal.
And really, that brings us right back to the central question. This technology isn't just about cool new gadgets. It represents a fundamental change in what it means to be human. So as that line between our own minds and our machines gets blurrier and blurrier, the real question we have to ask ourselves isn't just, what can we build? But what kind of world do we want to build? Because that future is coming, and the time to start preparing for it is right now.